Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing ensuring your ex can't ignore you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing ensuring your ex can't ignore you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need your ex to want you. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 ways to ensure that your ex can't ignore you. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is silence speaks loudest. So when we're talking about ensuring that your ex can't ignore you, we're not talking about bothering them, frustrating them, annoying them until they get to the stage where they say, hey, look, let me listen to you. Let's get back together. I just can't take you constantly contacting me, texting me, calling me. I can't take this anymore. Let's just get back together. No, of course, we're not talking about this. So when I say ensuring that your ex can't ignore you, we're not trying to find a way through their defenses to stop listening to you in your mindset. You know, maybe you're thinking, my ex just won't listen to me. What can I do to shout and scream for them to hear me? No, what we're talking about instead is that silence speaks loudest. Silence is golden. And therefore, to make sure that your ex can't ignore you, we need to create a situation where your ex is thinking about you more than they would if you were shouting. So if you're saying to yourself, well, my ex won't listen to anything I'm saying, I need to shout louder, I'm suggesting that if you shout less than you are right now, if you stop shouting completely, this will actually likely have a better, more important, powerful effect on your ex than anything loud, than anything drastic, than anything that you're thinking right now that you need to do. Maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I know my ex finishes their work shift at 6 p.m. I'm going to wait outside where they work and try and grab a word with them to explain why we should be together. No, that is not likely to work. Now, that doesn't mean that at the time of the breakup, you couldn't have said your piece. Of course you should. And I always suggest that people do. During the breakup itself, you can say your piece. You can say your thing. You can explain why you believe you should be together. You can explain why you believe you shouldn't break up. But once the dust has settled, once the relationship has ended, once the breakup has been finalized, it's now time to showcase silence, because silence speaks loudest. And it speaks loudest because your ex actually expects you to be shouting, screaming, and wanting their attention. So what we need to be doing is confusing your ex by doing something they don't expect. Now, they expect you to be pursuing them. And what I'm suggesting you do is the opposite. Now, if you do something that your ex doesn't expect, but it's negative, then of course that's not going to help. So you need to be using some common sense when I say the words of do something that your ex doesn't expect. I'm not suggesting that you do something reckless or crazy. I'm not suggesting that if you are a quiet and private person that you do something overly elaborate right now because your ex wouldn't expect that. No, please use your common sense. What I'm speaking about here is the thought process that most dumpers go through, which is, I don't want my ex to chase me, but I expect them to. And when I say chasing your dumper, I'm talking about texting, calling, and as I mentioned earlier, potentially waiting outside where they work. That's what we're talking about. And therefore, if you can do the opposite of that, it's going to have a huge shock on your dumper's mindset. Now, is this going to happen straight away? No, it's not likely to happen straight away because time is necessary for you to get your ex back most of the time. So when we look at breakups and reconnections, very few are reconnected from a proper breakup within a few days or weeks. If you get your ex back after a few days of being dumped, I would suggest that the breakup hasn't really even finalised and you've managed to rectify the situation before things became set in stone. But once that dust has settled, more often than not, I see it taking around the average of 6 months or so for a dumper to reconsider their position. Now, not all dumpers will, and there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. But generally speaking, the average amount of time that I see a dumper reaching out to their ex, if they're going to, is around the 6 month mark. It's often beyond that as well. So when we consider this, we have to realise that if you decide to go silent for a few days or weeks, this isn't likely to create a reaction of where your ex-dumper is begging to get back together with you anytime soon. But it is likely to start the process, is to start the ball rolling, is to start the mechanisms moving in a way where one day in the future you may get your ex back. And this is because slowly but surely you're starting to regrow romantic emotional attraction in your ex's mind. You might not see the result of this for a long, long time. Sadly, some of you will never see the result of this. And that's why you can't sit around and think, well, I'll just wait. I can wait 6 months. No, you can't clock watch. You can't do that because not only is it affecting your own life by not living it to the full, but also there is no guarantee your ex will get to that stage of where they want to reconnect. However, I would say most of the time, if a dumpee behaves in the right way, they will have a second opportunity at some stage in the future. Whether or not you want to accept that opportunity, time will tell, because not all dumpees, if and when they hear from their ex, actually still want to reconnect. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is shine brighter without them. So this is about you as a dumpee. This is about taking the focus away from your ex and placing the focus on you and your own life. You need to shine brighter without them. And what this means is you need to be living your life in a way where you have grown as a person to do more with yourself, to live a better life, to achieve everything you wanted to and more. And you need to be doing this without your ex. This will enable you to shine brighter without them, meaning that when you were together, you were a version 1. Now you're not together, you're going to become a version 2.0. So you're going to be aiming for the fact of not only being a better person than your ex remembers, but also being a better person than they are themselves. Now this could be something which is quite difficult to measure, of course. How do we measure who is better than each other? Well, what I would suggest, it's about goal setting and achievements. This has got to be connected to your own personal position and your ex's personal position. What can you do in this time frame apart? What can you do to improve yourself every single day, becoming a better person today than you were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than you are currently today? What can you do to put yourself on a higher level? And then, if and when you find out about your ex and what they've been doing on their journey, can you outpace them? You need to be that shining star. When we're talking about ensuring that your ex can't ignore you, you need to be that bright, shining star. You need to be that person that they are in awe of from your achievements. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got to turn into Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whoever it may be. But what it does mean is that you've got to be achieving your own goals. It does mean that you've got to be the best version of yourself. It does mean that in your own realm, you've got to be the king or queen of the castle. You've got to achieve what is viable and possible. Yes, reach for the stars, but make sure these are realistic goals. If you don't have realistic goals, then you're going to be very upset if and when you realise you can't achieve them. Slow and steady can win the race, but you've got to make sure you're pushing forward. If you can shine brighter without your ex, then not only will they realise that you are a better person than they don't, but if they believe that you are a better person than themselves, all of a sudden you become an ultra attractive option. And of course, that is what we want. If we want an ex back, we want our ex to see us as that ultra attractive option. We don't want them to be thinking, well, I'm going to do my dumpee a favour and get back with them. That is not going to help you. You don't want to be somebody who is in a relationship because your ex feels sorry for you, or they feel bored, or they feel you are a backup option. No, we want you to be their number one, and we want them to realise that you are a valuable individual, and that is why it's so important that you must shine brighter without them. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about ensuring your ex can't ignore you. And point number 3 is make your words valuable. Now this is in regards to if and when your ex-dumper contacts you. Now maybe right now you've only just been dumped. Maybe right now you've been in no contact a while. And either way, if these are your options but you are within, you probably can't imagine a moment of where your ex-dumper contacts you. But it's really important that you listen to point number 3, because if you fail to prepare, then you need to prepare to fail. You need to be ready. You never know if and when your ex might contact you. And therefore it's vital that even though it might seem a far, far away moment for you, if ever, you have to really be prepared for that position. There is nothing more disappointing than having a chance of getting your ex back, and then, because you never considered or prepared for it, you sadly drop the ball at the most important moment. And that would be if your ex-dumper was to reach out to you. So if they do, you need to make sure that your words are valuable. Remember, we're talking today about ensuring that your ex can't ignore you. And this would be seen if and when they reach out to you, because they could reach out to you in various different ways. And the way you react to this is going to be absolutely crucial. Now, please remember, you can't have a relationship on the phone. The phone, in essence, is for setting dates. But how you go about that is a delicate dance and a way that you need to make sure that you get what you want from this interaction. So your ex-dumper might reach out to you and say something very obscure. It's not likely to be, hey, I miss you, let's get back together. Most dumpers are not going to behave in this way. Most dumpers instead are going to reach out to you with what we like to call an indirect direct approach. It's indirect because what they're saying is not actually what they mean, but it's direct because it is a direct message. So they might indirectly say to you, hey, have you seen that our favourite movie is on TV tonight? And you're thinking to yourself, why are you texting me this? You dumped me 9 months ago. Why would you suddenly out of the blue send me a text about watching TV, watching a movie? Why would you say this? It makes no sense. Well, this is an example of how your ex-dumper might reach out to you using an indirect direct approach. Now, how you respond to something like this is going to be crucial. Remember, your words need value. We need to make sure that everything you say is representing you as a valuable, attractive option. So you could respond to this and say, hey, I haven't heard from you in months and months and months. Why are you sending me a text like this? How dare you come out of the blue like this and bother me with some nonsense? Now, do you really think if you send a response like that is going to help you? I would suggest it showcases you as low value. It showcases you as being agitated and being knocked off centre by what your ex has said. That's not going to help you. Now, alternatively, you might respond and say, hey, I'm so happy that you messaged me. I've been thinking about you every day for the last 9 months. I've been crying every day. I've been thinking about you every day. This is the greatest moment of my life. Thank you so much for messaging me. Why don't you come round right now and we can watch this movie together? Again, if you send this type of response, it is not going to help you. You come across as low value. This time, you'd be presenting yourself as somebody who is needy, somebody who is desperate, somebody who can't find any other options and instead has been waiting at home alone for their ex to hopefully one day contact them. Even if that is your position that you feel, you certainly don't want to be presenting this to your ex. Remember, your words need value. So instead of these 2 suggestions of what you might put, I would try to make sure that you come across as somebody who is stable-minded, positive, and doesn't need their ex in their life, but on the flip side is happy to interact if and when you are available. Now, this doesn't mean not responding for days and days. That isn't really realistic. That looks like you're playing games. But it also doesn't mean that you respond within 1 minute of receiving this message. Instead, first of all, make sure that you have finished doing whatever you were doing. If you're at work, if you're busy, don't respond until you're relaxing back at home. I would suggest that even if you are free and available, you should be waiting at least 30 minutes to an hour before responding, maybe even a few hours. But definitely if you're busy, don't respond straight away. However, I do believe that you should send a text back within the same day, unless you didn't receive a text until nighttime. Of course, if that was the case, you could reply the following day. So, what do you say to something when your ex-dumper reaches out and says something kind of random, like, hey, did you see that our favourite movie's on TV tonight? If you want to respond to something like that, I respond in a positive way, holding your frame, making yourself come across as positive, but also not needy. I would respond by saying, hi, thanks for your message and letting me know. That sounds great. If I get a chance, I'll check it out, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to have time. How have you been? Okay, you see what I've done there? I'm suggesting that you answer what they are saying, showcasing that you might be busy and you're not sitting at home alone, because you're not necessarily going to say that you're going to watch the movie, but you might. And then most importantly, ending with a simplistic question back. How's it going? How have you been? Something such as that will hopefully start to grow the conversation. Now, if you want to try and navigate the communication stage more precisely to your specific situation, this is where my audio coaching service could be very helpful, because we can talk about the unique specifics of what is necessary. But ultimately, you need to grow this conversation, get into the stage where hopefully you can meet. Because the communication stage is the middle ground. It's after no contact, but it's before meeting. And you can't get your ex back unless you meet up. You've got to make sure your words have value, and you've got to make sure you do the best that you can. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.